So knowing what that rhythm looks like, I think is interesting. So the two of you have also made an interesting choice just in the way that I found you in allowing people to see this story which is lovely because I think for a lot of people they're wondering, there was always a feeling of, am I normal, right? When no matter what you're doing, especially right now, it's like, am I having an experience that fits in with anybody else's experiences? And what went into sort of making the decision to talk about like this unique experience and knowing that for other people it would give them a sense of, oh, like this is possible, right? And here's how two other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Well, she took the reins on publicity.
Okay.
She was like, "Are you okay with this?" And I'm like, because I'm not a super private person, so I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." And she just like ran with it. So
yeah,
talk about defining the relationship.
Put that on record. It was not forced.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Good to know.
Well, the reason why I started doing that is because, there are parts of me that, yes, they're still private, but with something like this, it was unique, not only in the sense of me falling for someone off of a dating app, because that just doesn't happen, and trusting it enough to be public that this is the one, this is who I match with, and it's happening. I've asked the universe for it, and it happens. So let me tell you about this story and how I've been acting, so how it's made me act out in such a way that, I wouldn't normally act out. And so it was like documenting, my reaction to what just occurred. And so I wanted to document that story for safekeeping, not only that I have it in my own Rolodex, so I have everything saved, but I wanted to share some of that with the world too, for other people to, be able to resonate with that as well, if they found that it was, relatable to them.
It sparks joy for a lot of people, I think. And that's a big, I love to just help people spark joy. It's like, so I think, that also is part of it, of, just kind of sharing our happiness with other people, too.
Well, I think both of you represent different pieces of what I've heard from others, or what I hear from others just generally about, one of you had not even thought about this for such a long time, right? And was mm-hmm. And this idea that the pace of pandemic, however you want to call it, gave you a beat to say, maybe I could look, and maybe I could. I mean, that I think is a really universal feeling of, perhaps this is the worst time to look online for some person, I don't know. But on the other hand, I haven't had a minute to truly be open to it, so that it made one of you very open to it, and like that, and also because a lot of people I talk to have had dating fatigue, where they were like, I don't want to look at an app ever again. I'm sick of swiping. And they were like, oh, now I'm actually taking a moment to look at someone and listen. And I think in almost all cases, the couples I've talked to have said this would not have happened if there wasn't COVID, which again, no one wants COVID to have happened, but that it's like no one had a moment. And I also just think that, for people who have met someone, to be able to see your story also says, oh, okay, we're not so weird, right? Maybe this can work in and out of this. And I think, so I guess, will you continue to let people in on that progress as the world opens?
Of course. Yeah, we're committed now.
Because to each other and our online presence.
And our fans.
Yeah, we're going to fake this to the end. I am kidding. No. The funny thing about it is, when you say about the dating app fatigue is, I was a moderator on the Her app before all this. So I had seen her profile a couple of times already because I had to check her, to make sure this was a legit file. And even so, when she started talking to me, I still checked it, to assure that it was legit.
Like not a fake profile.
I have to go back to the earlier geography questions that I had at the very start of this. So, wait, how long did you say? You said 2 hours 45? Is that what you? Okay.
2.5, 2.5, depending. Yeah.
So, when you say you were checking, like, in where the two of you live, would you automatically be seeing, like, how big is the range, the mileage range?
You have to set your range.
And your range was pretty wide at that point.
I opened mine. Mine had not been that wide, but then when I got on for this purpose, like, in the pandemic, I was like, let's just open it up wide. Cast a wider net and see what comes back.
Well, do you feel, I mean, I live, Boston's pretty big, and greater Boston's pretty big, and if you live in New York, like, it's very easy to say, I just want to look in New York, but, like, where the two of you are, would you feel like you need to cast a wider net because the community just doesn't, like, I think if I were in a smaller town, I would have to go pretty wide.
Yes. Like, see here, you would see the same profile, like, every couple just swipes.
Like 5 people?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like,
living in the Midwest, so a couple of things. One, I came back to Fort Wayne for surgeries that I had to get. I was going to move back to Indianapolis after, and then that didn't happen. So now I've been here, but, like, the queer scene here is kind of terrifying, actually. I have no interest. And I think that what I found, even when I was living in Indy, and I'm starting to think it's like this all over the Midwest, unless you're in closer to more major cities, but, like, I just felt like the type of women I was coming across were just not my type of women. Like, it was just like, I don't know, some of them just kind of acted like straight Midwestern dudes. And I'm like, this is not what's happening.
Okay.
So the majority of the people who I had any interest in over the last several years were always away. Well, my one girlfriend did live in Indianapolis, and I met her right before I left Indy to go travel overseas for an indefinite amount of time. So she was the exception to that. But I think that's what I mean when I say I think it's super normal for people in our community to meet people long distance, because especially in the Midwest, like, it's a different kind of community here.
Like, so in my mind, like, long distance also is like, if you must fly there, like, that to me is like, that's where it really, like, I think I might like a partner who lives 2.5 hours away. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, you can be, like, that sounds like a really nice, like, I don't know.
Little you time.
Well, especially it's like, it depends on the drive and where, but, like, that's like, it's like, it's not easy, but it's also not like, oh God, I'm spending less time with the person than it took me to actually get there. Like, if I took a weekend trip, it would feel way too, like, not worth it or whatever, so, it's sort of it doesn't sound insurmountable to me, but when you guys, I mean, no pressure to make decisions in front of me, but when you talk about future things, like, are you Midwesterners forever? Like, are there?
I mean, we've been super easygoing about, like, any of those kind of conversations. I used to think I would live way far away from where I grew up and, like, just whatever. And then the older I've gotten and the more life has just happened, I have a really hard time seeing myself moving far away from my family. Like, I'm really close to my mom and my dad, but my mom's the only one that lives in Fort Wayne. Like, the rest of my family lives in bordering states or across the country or whatever. I kind of like the Midwest for an array of reasons. I could see us staying in the Midwest. What are your thoughts about that, babe?
Just some casual life planning. No big deal.
I'm like, that is an interesting answer. No, I'm just kidding. No, we've had this talk before, and it kind of boomerangs back to one of my giftings of when I purchased a lot in Arizona